Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to start off with my character already with his background placed, and I'm going to do some little detail work and add my title stuff to make this look like a real comic book cover. So there's a few things I'm going to need. One is I'm going to need this Photoshop file opened up in Photop. I've also already opened up the files of my word marks. I've already have those things painted, and I already have them sort of set up. Remember, I'm going to just go through it with this one. I'll just undo a couple things. Remember, after you've sort of painted your letters and your title, remember, you might have multiple layers over here. What I want you to do is I want you to merge all these things together. And again, to merge all your layers into one, we're going to do Control Shift and the letter E. And you can see when I press Control Shift and the letter E, everything that I had layer wise combines into one. Now, once I have this, I can switch over to my magic wand, and if I have a really bright white background, it should work pretty good. But for those of you who don't have that, remember, we could go to the tolerance and increase that tolerance. And once I increase that tolerance, when I click on the white area, you can see it should select most, if not all, of that empty space. And if I hit backspace, you're going to see that that clears everything out for me. So in this case, that checkerboard means that everything's all clear. To deselect that area, you could hit Control and then the letter D. I also have some other white spots, like right in here on my actual thing, and I want to erase them. And I realize now when I try to click on it, because the tolerance is so high, it's selecting a lot more than I want. So I can always lower the tolerance and try it again. You can always manually delete these things, but I think it's important to learn how to use the tools and how they work so that you can use it effectively. So now I have my letter B. Now that I have my word mark, or part of my word mark, I actually broke mine up into two pieces because I wanted to make them very different. What I'm going to do now is I want to select this thing and sort of copy it and paste it on my other project. So to select this thing, and if I have it, the whole thing cleared out, I can always hit Control A. Control A is select all, and you'll see that I have sort of a boundary box around everything. It's important that the rest of this is all clear. So if you have a little like static or like little garbage things on the outside, use your eraser tool to clean it up. Once I have the whole thing selected by pressing Control A, I will press Control C to copy it. All right. Once I press Control C, and this is again the same way we did the background, I'm going to go to my project, and then I'm going to press Control V, like victory. All right. What should happen is your graphic, your title should appear there. It may appear really, really big or really, really small. Okay. And one of the things we could do is we can grab the move tool and we could try to move it around, but this is not going to work for me. It's way, way too big. So much like the background, and this should be a review for you guys, I can go up to Edit, Pretransform, and then you're going to see that I get this sort of boundary box around it, and I can kind of resize things. Now, if I just do this, you're going to see that I can kind of make my B like squished or small. All right, I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is when I go to Free Transform and I try to make it smaller, I can hold down the Shift key, and that way I can kind of shrink this down to a size that I want it. And I'm going to place it on this side like I did in my other sample piece. I'm going to put it like right over his shoulder. Now, once I have it the size I want, you see this box around it. This is the transform option. If you try to do other stuff, it won't let you until you get out of that transform option. So you can either enter or you can click on another layer, but you want to make sure that transform option is off. Now, in my case, you can see that B is in front of my character, not the way I want it. So what I can do is I can go to my layers window, and I can reorder my layers. I can click and drag this layer 1, which is my B, down below the character, or I could click the character layer and drag that above the B. The one thing that's important is that your background image should always be the bottom one. And I like the way that looks right now. I'm going to go over to the other portion of my title. I've already set this up. I've already selected it. Control A to select everything. Control C to copy it. I'm going to go back to my project and hit Control V to paste it. Again, it may appear really, really big or really, really small. It all has to depend on how big your photographs are, which is not a big deal because I'm showing you how to resize things. So again, Edit, Pretransform, and I'm going to hold down in the corner and I'm going to press Shift while I do that. And that way I can kind of set up my Mr. B. So I'm going to place that on my picture. I'm going to get it just the way I want it. And I realize once again, I don't really like the fact that it's in front of my character. I'm going to press Enter or Return to sort of place it there, get rid of that transform box. And then I'm just going to go to my layer window and I'm going to drag this underneath my character. I can see what it looks like underneath the B, and it cuts off the R a lot. I kind of like it like this a little bit more. So I've got my Mr. B down there. I could always go back with Edit, Free Transform and resize those things, but I think I'm pretty happy with the way that looks right now. So I've got my character, I've got him on the background, I've got my word mark, I've got my character in front of my word mark like a real comic book. A couple of things that I did in the other one is I added a little sort of like, I guess, the trademark box to make it look like a real comic you would buy on the actual newsstand, for those of you who still deal with paper and stuff like that. So how did I do that? All right, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, and before I even do that, I'm just going to go over here and just kind of rename my layers just so it keeps things easy for me to look at and understand. I'm going to create a new layer, and I click the new layer down here, and what I have now, layer 2, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to call this just the trademark. Okay, and I've created a new blank layer. I want to make it on its own layer because if I want to move it around or resize it later on, it's easier if it's its own independent thing. If I do it on the character layer, the Mr. layer, the B layer, if I want to resize it, then I'm resizing everything that's on that layer, and I like to have them independent of one another. Now I'm going to make a little rectangle over here. And how I'm going to do that is, if we go up to our toolbar, you're going to see the Move tool, and underneath it you're going to see the rectangle Select. So I'm going to click on that rectangle Select, and what I'll do is I'll just kind of click over here and I'll click and drag, and I'm just going to make a box. You can make it however big you want, but you can see it's just a selection area. All right, so you can resize this later on, but again, we just want to start at least with a little selected area. And it's very important, once you have that selection, that you are on a new layer. All right, you can rename it trademark just like I did mine. I can make this any color I want. I'm going to go to my color picker, and I'm going to, I'll make it white to start with. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to grab my paint bucket, okay, and I'm going to just dump it in there, and you're going to see, all right, boom, I've created a white square. If you look in my other example, I kind of made it with orange, but I made it fade from orange to white. So you might be like, Mr. B, I'm pretty advanced and I love this stuff and I want to know how to do that. So I'll show you a couple different ways you could do stuff. I know a lot of you are getting pretty good at this, so this might be a chance to sort of mess around. Now you notice that we have the color picker down here, but we have another color underneath it. So there's always been this like 2-color thing over here. Why do we have 2 colors? Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to pick like an orangey kind of color to start with. So now I have orange, and underneath it I have this sort of dark red. All right, now I'm going to go to my paint bucket, and I'm going to go back to that gradient tool. And the gradient tool, once I click on that, you're going to see the color up here. The color is orange fading into that dark red, just like you see the colors that I picked over here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not just going to click in the box. If I just click, the gradient tool's not doing anything. What I have to do is I have to click and drag, and you'll see this line form. And I'm going to just make it go straight up and down. I'm going to release that line, and now you see it's created this gradient. All right? I'm going to do it again. This time I'm going to click and drag, but I'm going to do it sideways. You can see that sort of makes that sort of diagonal. I'll do it left to right. All right? I can do it a million different ways. You can see the longer I make it, the lower that dark part is. Now, I'm not crazy about my colors, so I'll go back over here and change them a little bit. I think I want it a little bit lighter on this one, and I think I do want it a little bit lighter on that one. I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to go again with my gradient tool. I'm going to click and drag, and that's going to give me that sort of box. I like this box. I'm good with it. I'm ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect that selection by hitting Control D, and now I have my sort of trademark box. Now you might have noticed on my other one I put a little outline around it. How do you do that, Mr. B? All right, you don't have to do everything I'm showing you, but I know some of you are really taken to this, so I want to show you a little bit of everything. We have things called layer options. Now remember, if I click right on the word here, I can rename the word. But if I click on the empty space on this layer, okay, I'm going to get layer styles. And the layer style I'm looking for is called stroke. And you'll see on this lot of choices, I'm going to hit stroke. And then right when I hit stroke, suddenly there's a red outline around it. I can go over here and I can adjust some of those things. I can adjust how thick that outline is, okay, by hitting the size. I can position that inside the box or outside the box. Really not a big deal where you put it inside or outside. I have it set on multiply right now. I'm going to change that to just normal, so it's just a nice red dot. And you see the red down here, you see the red outline of that stroke? I can change that color wherever I want and try it a bunch of different ways. Actually, I think I like it red, so I'm just going to leave it red. And I'm going to make it, whoops, hit OK. And I'm just going to make it just a little bit thinner. And hit all right. All right, the next thing I want to do is, I think that this box should really be behind my mister, so I'm just going to drag this down underneath it, set it up over there. Next thing I want to do is, if you see in my other one, I kind of created another little logo. When I was a kid, in the comic books I used to read, they always used to have, like if it was the X-Men, they'd have little heads of the X-Men over here and like the issue number and the date. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I did that for this one. What we're going to do is I'm going to go to my character, that layer. It's important that you're on that layer, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Now what I want to use is, we have the move tool, the marquee tool, and then underneath it is the lasso select. There's a couple different ones. The lasso select itself is a little bit tricky to use. The magnetic lasso is the best one to use for it, but I think that you'd have to really have a feel for how to use it to do it. I think the easiest one to use is going to be the polygon lasso tool, so I'm going to select that one. Looks like a jagged puzzle piece. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go around the head of this character, and I'm going to click. You might see as I'm moving around here, you can see a little line that's appearing. Every time I click, it kind of anchors that line around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the head of my character, clicking every once in a while. You know, again, every time you see me change direction, I've clicked the mouse once. And I'm going to go around clicking it. You can see you can go in any direction you want, but you got to click for it to sort of fix into place. And what I'm doing is I'm selecting a specific area. The tool we used before selected and made just selections based on a rectangle. We used the magic wand before. The magic wand will select everything that is of the same color, and we use that to select areas that were white or background. This tool is where you can make a really unique shape to select. But the only way to really make this is by going all the way around your project and connecting it. You'll know it works because you'll see that dotted line outline around the entire project, the entire area you selected. Now, if you're not on the layer that has this stuff, you're not going to select the right thing. So make sure that before you do anything, you're on the character layer. I'm going to zoom out. On the character layer now, with the head selected, I'm going to hit Control C to copy that and Control V to paste it. What you'll notice, it doesn't look like anything happened, but if you look over here, there's a new layer called Layer 1, and if you look at that little thumbnail, the little head's over there. I'm going to grab my Move tool, I'll click, and then boom, I just saw the little head I can move around. We already know how to resize it. Edit, pretransform. We can hold down Shift. We can even rotate it while it's in pretransform, and we can place it. Okay. I like a little overlap over here. You know what? You can always mess around with where it's going to be. I'm going to call this mini-me. You could call it whatever you want. But I'm going to put that layer. Underneath the mister, so it's sort of hiding back there. Last thing I'm going to show you is how to use the text tool. All right. That letter T on your toolbar is the text tool. If you click on that, you're able to type things on your actual picture. When you click the text tool, the T, you're going to see up top over here we have a font. And if we click on this, there's a million different fonts. You can see what it looks like. You see regular. They always have a regular. Sometimes they have regular and like bold or regular and italic. It matters on the font. And over here we have the size of the font. The last one here is the color of the font. So as I have my text tool selected, I'm just going to click on my picture. Zoom in. Hard to see, but where I clicked, oops. Sorry about that, guys. Where I clicked on my picture, there is a little cursor, and if I start typing, you can see that it will start making letters. I'm going to just type the word issue, and while I'm on the text tool, if I move my arrow to get this sort of plus sign, I can just click and drag. And what I've decided is I'm going to just highlight issue and make it a little bit smaller, kind of adjust it, and I'm going to move it around a little bit so I like where it's at. When I have it to put where I want it, all I have to do is switch out of the text tool to kind of place this. When you're in the text tool, it's hard to do anything else, but when you're done typing something, what I would do is I would just click on any other tool, it'll place it right there. I like to make each one of these pieces its own piece of text. That way I can move each one around on its own. So when I go to my thing, issue, you can see it's its own layer. When you use the text layer, it makes its own layer automatically. I'm going to click back on the text tool, and I'll click, I can always move it, so I'll click anywhere. And now I'm going to put number 1. I might want to highlight that, maybe make number 1 a little bit bigger. Maybe I want to make it a different color. And I want to place it and see what it looks like. I can use my move tool after the fact. So I can mess around with that stuff and add other things. And you can see every time you use the text tool independently, it creates a new layer. So again, what I'll do is I'll click the text tool, I'll click on my project, I'll write like Marvel. And again, this is a layer like any other layer, so when you see it sort of disappears behind my work. All right, 1E. We can move it around like this. We can highlight it. We can resize it to make it fit. And once you have all your stuff on there, then you can play around a little bit. I might look at it right now and see, like, you know what, I feel like my mister is covering up too much stuff, so let me go back to that layer and I'll edit and pretransform it and adjust it and make it a little bit smaller so it doesn't kind of like interfere. You know what, I want to make my B a little bit darker. These are all things you know how to do. I click on my B layer, I would go to image, adjustments, levels, you know levels already, and I would kind of crank up the black on there a little bit. And once we get to this part, we are basically done. You don't have to add all of this stuff for me. I'd like you to try to. I realize it might be complicated, but I would like you to kind of finish your whole comic book page. Make it look like a real comic book. You can add more writing in it. I tried to add a few more things on mine, like I added the date. You don't have to add all that stuff, but we want to kind of get it to like a sort of finished state where we feel like, yeah, Mr. B, I like what I'm seeing. You could touch up everything that you want over here. And then what we want to do is we want to finally, once again, save this as a PSD. That way, all your layers will be saved, all right? And this is really like the last one. And since it's the last one, and you want to be able to have a really good picture of this, let's say you want to text it to somebody, or you want to put it as your back page of your phone, your background, or your desktop. Then we're going to go to File, and this is only if you're totally done. We're going to go to Export as a JPEG. A PNG will also work. All these other formats will work. I say a JPEG. A JPEG is just the way the information is saved. And what a JPEG is just one flat picture. It has no layers on it. So what you're going to see in this Save for Web is you're going to see like a zoomed in version of it to show you how clean and crisp it is. You can lower that quality. You can see as I lower it down, you see it looks a little choppier, or you can up that quality. The higher the quality, the bigger the file is going to be. Not a big deal for you guys to understand that, but what I would tell you is I wouldn't save it at a very low number here. And 100% is really not necessary either. So 70% is fine. When I click Save, that's also going to go to my downloads. So if I do go to my downloads window, and I do go for my regular downloads, I'm going to see a file named mask. There we go, JPEG. Okay, mask, that's the name of my particular project, and the word JPEG. It's the last thing that I saved over here. And when I click on that and double click on it, it should open up on your computer as just one picture. This is a picture that you can text. This is a picture you could save to your phone. This is a picture that you could send anywhere. And this is like the master copy of your project. So what I want you to do is this is the picture that you will submit when you're done with this project. The assignment will be finished comic book cover, and I'm looking for your character, a background, your title, and some sort of trademark box over here. Again, you feel free to add as much as you'd like to it, but that would be the minimums. I'm going to post this video and set that up for you guys so that when you get up to this point, you could do it yourselves. I know we're inching towards